Good afternoon, everyone. We'll get started here in just a minute. All right, thanks for joining us today. As we go through today's presentation, if you have any questions, send them in with the question and answer interface. It's built into Zoom. Now, we have two Nebula webinars this month. This is the first one. So this is our general sort of introduction to Nebula for those of you that haven't played with it yet and are sort of wanting to know what Nebula is all about. Next week, we have our tips and tricks or best practices webinar, where we go through a lot of the different features and suggest, how and when to set things up. We did that for the first time last month in August, with the plan that we would do a second one in October or November. But it had such good success and we got so much feedback on it that we actually pulled it up and placed it in this month as well. So again, that one is going to be next week. So we'll go ahead and get started with a little background on Zyxel. So we've just got a couple slides here on this. So Zyxel Networks is who I work for. Zyxel Networks is who at Zyxel makes our networking equipment that's aimed at the business space. So Soho, SMB, even some consumer products. We've been doing this now for over 30 years. I think we're getting close to the 35th anniversary, in fact. We serve 150 different global markets, and we've got over 100 million devices that we've deployed over the years. Now, Zyxel Networks is part of the Zyxel Group. So some of our sister companies are listed there as Zyxel Communications. That's our networking division that's aimed at the ISP space, making CPE and COE equipment. Mitristar is our manufacturing arm, who owns and operates our factories. And then we've got some various other companies as well as part of that group. So getting on here to Nebula. So what is Nebula? So Nebula was the first full stack cloud networking solution for SMB. So let's dissect that a little bit. So full stack, meaning it was designed to support basically most products in your customer's network, switches, access points, um, firewall products, etc. So back when we launched in 2016, none of the full stack solutions that were on the market were aimed at the SMB space. They were all aimed at big enterprise, with Cisco's Meraki being the big dog back then, just as it is today, in the enterprise space. There were a couple SMB aimed solutions, but they were pretty much aimed only at access points, not the full stack. So the big takeaway here is we have been doing this now for 8 years since we launched Zyxel Nebula. We are not a Johnny come lately to the cloud managed networking space. So let's hit that there. The cloud networking solutions just means that all of your devices can be managed through the cloud. There is one URL you go to, nebula.zyxel.com. You log in. Your customers are there. Their networks are there for you to manage them. There's no need to set up port forwarding. There's no need to set up special software, install any special apps, any virtual machines, anything like that. Everything is hosted and managed through the cloud. So basically, there's a lot of things that go into your typical new network deployment. We've got them up there on the screen. One of the big ideas behind Nebula is to take all those things and eliminate some of it, and in other areas, reduce the amount of time and effort it takes to set it up and configure. So at the end of the day, you're paying less money in things you need to buy, and you're spending less time setting it up and configuring it, saving you even more money. So here's our dashboard here. This is what you're going to see after you log in with nebula.zyxel.com. So Nebula gives you a lot of really great tools. We'll hit some of the free ones here first. We'll talk a little bit about licensing in a bit, and then we'll also talk about some of the other cool features that are a part of Nebula. So one of the things you can do here is you can set up your devices without unboxing. Most Nebula equipment has a QR code on the outside of the box. You simply scan that QR code and assign that device to a customer and a network or a site. And you can start configuring everything. You do not need to take the product out of the box. There's nothing that needs to be done in the unit itself. Simply configure everything in the cloud and then send this product on to the customer site. Once it's been plugged in and has power and an internet connection, it will reach out to the cloud, see you want to manage it in the cloud, and it will download the configuration that you've assigned for it. There is nothing you have to do on the hardware itself. In some features and some of your network settings can even be configured before you've finalized which hardware you're going to use on your network as well. So Nebula has a number of wizards to walk you through some of the basics of setting up a new network. So it's designed to get you up and running in just a few minutes. So to use Nebula, as I mentioned earlier, there is no additional hardware or software required. There's no virtual machines. There is no software that needs to be put on a server somewhere. There's no cloud keys. There's no CNA devices. Everything that you need to use Nebula is built into the hardware itself. So with Nebula, we are talking cloud management. So basically, all of your customers, all of your sites are available 24/7 at nebula.zyxel.com. And again, there's no port forwarding generally needed. There's nothing, no VPNs that need to get into remote access. If your customer calls you up at the middle of the night with an issue, you can log in instantly wherever you are. So Nebula features built-in user management. So we're talking about here the ability to control different access levels as far as admin of the network goes. So if you need to share it with different admins in your business, if you need to open it up for the local IT guy who works at your customer, you can do that. It also can handle guest access to a guest network. We have the ability using this to have guests log in with a username and password that you can manage. They have the ability for a ambassador to create accounts for people. And then for the employees themselves, we have the ability to support username and password for 802.1x authentication. So when it comes to guest access, whether you're talking about customers visiting your customer, or whether we're talking deploying something that's a little bit more public, like a hotel or cafe hotspot, we have the ability to do that. Captive Portal is built in automatically on all of our access points. It does not require anything special at the gateway level. And so we can do a captive portal there. That is hosted with Nebula. We also give you the ability to host your own captive portal and give you the code that you need to add to do that. And we provide a lot of different ways of granting access. You can simply have people agree to a terms of service before getting free internet access. You can have them register an account to be able to get on. You can use vouchers to provide access to people. You can even do Facebook login. Another cool thing we have on our hotspot network here is the ability to isolate those users without using VLAN. So with best practices, your guest network is generally going to be on its own VLAN, separate from what the corporate users are having access to. Unfortunately, some of the smaller SMB customers out there, they don't have switches that support VLANs, or their gateway doesn't support VLANs. So we have something extra guest protection that we offer called Layer 2 isolation. Layer 2 isolation, you create a whitelist of MAC addresses of resources that guests can access. Usually just the WAN on your gateway, but maybe you've got a shared server where clients can come and upload files to or download files from, or maybe you've got a shared printer that allows people to print off stuff. You can whitelist those, and then any traffic trying to be sent from those wireless users to any other resource on the network will automatically get dropped and not be passed through the access point. So firmware updates, configuration updates are all done over the air. So you simply log into Nebula, make your changes, and they will be pushed out to the client devices. In the case of firmware, you can schedule times for firmware updates, so you can make sure firmware updates are being pushed out in the middle of the day when everyone's on the network. Our wireless access points support mesh. Simply enable the SmartNet mesh feature, and then your access points have the ability to create a wireless mesh network. Again, no additional configuration required. So it's really handy there when you need to expand out wireless coverage where you may not have it. When it comes to security, we support WPA2 and WPA3 with full 8021X authentication, either using your own Radius server to do that or using our built-in cloud-hosted database that we have for you. We also support dynamic pre-shared key with Nebula ProPack and support fast roaming stuff like 802.11r, K, and V. On the switch side of things here, we make it very easy to visualize your network. You can see up there, our ports on your switch will be color-coded to let you know what's going on with that switch port, whether something's plugged into it or not, what speed the connection is, and whether or not PoE power is being provided through the port. For configuring ports, you can easily go in there, select multiple ports, and configure them simultaneously. We've also got some live tools on there, ping tools, stuff like that to help troubleshoot connectivity issues you may have. And we do also chart out utilization over time on the switch. So some of the features we offer in the switches here includes the ability to do 802.1x authentication on your ports. We have a very easy to use ACL rule set up in place there. We have a loop guard that can automatically be enabled to prevent accidental loops, a DHCP server guard to prevent people from plugging in their own DHCP server, etc. So just about everything I've talked about up to this point is free. Nebula is a free service, and that free service allows you to manage an unlimited number of devices, an unlimited number of customers, and an unlimited number of sites. We do offer some licenses which unlock additional features, and we will be talking about this soon. So when it comes to Nebula, almost all the Nebula hardware today is what we call Nebula Flex. So instead of having, like Cisco, one line of product that's cloud managed, one line of product that's not cloud managed, we just have one line of products, and you can choose to manage them the traditional way in standalone mode, where you would access them via the built-in GUI in the device, or through SNMP or SSH or whatever it happens to be, or you can choose cloud management. So our hardware does both, and it's really easy to switch between modes. By default, the products out of the box are going to be in standalone mode. Once you have added the device to the Nebula cloud, which is as simple as using the mobile app, scanning that QR code, and assigning the device to a customer and site, the device will automatically detect that and reboot itself into cloud mode. If at any point you want to take it out of cloud mode and put it back into standalone mode, you simply remove the device from your Nebula inventory, and within a few minutes, the device will automatically reboot into standalone mode. So very easy to switch modes. Now, a key thing here is configuration is completely independent between modes. So when you put it into cloud mode, it goes to the Nebula cloud and downloads the site configuration you have set up in the Nebula cloud. If you take it back out of Nebula, it will factory default itself back to the default configuration for you to set up and configure. So when it comes to licenses, we've got a couple different licenses here. The free version here is what we call base pack, and that's what everybody gets. We have ProPack, which is something we've offered since day one, which is our more advanced features. It's primarily focused on reporting, additional log storage, additional user storage, things like that. And we'll go a little bit more in depth into it here in a couple slides. And then we have Plus Pack, which is sort of an in-between license pack that we offer that's specifically added in there to compete with some of the other low-end SMB cloud management solutions, such as what Netgear offers, TP-Link, what Ubiquity used to offer before they discontinued it. So those are our licenses here as far as the core Nebula features. We've got the base pack, Plus Pack, and Pro Pack. And these are what we call these licenses are linked to the devices. Then we have an MSP pack, which unlocks some additional features for those of you that are running a large MSP. You have a large number of employees or a lot of sites that you're managing, which gives you some extra tools to make that job easier. This license is associated not with a customer or pieces of hardware. It is associated with an admin user. So this license, you buy it, you assign it to an admin account, and that admin account gets those extra features. So if you have multiple admins that need these extra features, you would buy multiple licenses and assign one to each user that needs those extra features. So when it comes to the Plus and Pro Pack, as I mentioned before, they are per device licensing. And basically, the way it works is it's organized by org level. So in the Nebula interface, you normally set up each of your customers as their own organization, and then you have sites underneath that organization. So to upgrade from a free version of Nebula to the Plus version or the Pro Pack version, every device in the org needs to have a license. Once every device has a license, you can then flip on and activate the licenses and convert the site over to Plus or Pro Pack. If one of those licenses expires or you add some new hardware which doesn't have a license currently, you will be notified that you were short on licenses, and you'll be given 2 weeks to add the license back in. If after 2 weeks you don't have enough licenses for all of the hardware on the organization, it will automatically drop back to the free version of Nebula until you add enough licenses to convert it back to Plus or Pro Pack. And then we've also had some questions on this. To do Plus Pack, every device needs a Plus license. You cannot mix Plus and Pro Pack licenses together on the same organization. So just a quick overview of the hardware here. Basically, everything in the top half of this slide is Nebula Flex. The products in the bottom half here are what we call Nebula Flex Pro. And what all Nebula Flex Pro means is that 1 year of Pro Pack is bundled with the device when you buy it. So regular Nebula Flex is all of our NWA series access points. Nebula Flex Pro is all of our W series access points. And in the case of access points, the Pro products here, in addition to coming with 1 year of Pro Pack, these are also the devices that can be managed locally using a local controller. So these up here, these are doing either standalone or cloud mode. The W series here are doing standalone, cloud mode, or local controller. So on our switches here, the Nebula Flex switches are our 1915, 1920, and 1930 series, where our Nebula Flex Pro switches are the 1350, 2220, and 3800 series. On our security gateway products, our SCR50AXE and USG Lite 60AX, those are Nebula Flex. And then all of our USG Flex products, which are sold as standalone, are Nebula Flex. When it comes to Nebula Flex Pro, all of our USG Flex bundled products, those products that are bundled with the UTM services, also include 1 year of Pro Pack with them as part of that bundle. And then the ATP series includes Nebula Pro Pack as part of the gold license that they come with. So now we'll talk a little bit about sort of the boring stuff here, which is the differences between the free version, the Plus version, and Pro Pack version. You can find this information on our website, or it's easiest probably just to Google, Zyxel Nebula Pro Pack features, and Google will find you a link probably faster than you'll find it on your own, poking around on our website. But it's easy to find a version of this, in fact, a much more comprehensive version of this, but we'll go through it here. So we'll start with the features that are available in the free version and thus are available in Plus and Pro as well. So unlimited numbers of devices, sites, and customers managed through the web. That is free. Zero touch auto deployment of hardware. Again, there's nothing you need to do to the hardware itself to get it to work with Nebula. You don't have to log into the GUI and put in cloud mode or point it to a cloud server. So that all versions support that. Over-the-air firmware updates, including basic scheduling, are available in all versions. Access to our mobile app is available in all versions. Now, where we start getting to some of our differences here, log storage. We store logs in the cloud for you. The free version of Nebula keeps just 24 hours worth of logs in the cloud. Plus Pack gets you a week worth of logs in the cloud. Pro Pack, we store a year's worth of logs in the cloud. Now, I do want to note here that the free version of Nebula does support syslog server export, so you can always set up your own syslog server and have the logs automatically exported to that. It's just the cloud storage itself is limited to 24 hours. Another area where we've got some differences here is on the number of admin accounts. So this is admin accounts not for all of your Nebula access. It's on a per organization basis, which again is usually going to be per customer basis for you. So with free, you get 5 admin accounts. Plus Pack gets you 8. Pro Pack gives you an unlimited number of admin accounts. And we have a cloud database that you can use for user authentication, either via 802.1x, MAC filtering, whatever it happens to be. So the number of entries in that cloud database vary. Free version, we give you 50 entries into that cloud database. Plus Pack gets you 100 entries, and Pro Pack gives you an unlimited number. And again, we do also support 802.1x for most of those features. So if you need more users than what we can do in the cloud for you at the level you're at, you can always set up your own 802.1x server to provide that. The ability to access the core features of our wireless access points and all of the hardware itself is available across all of these. Mac-based and 802.1x authentication is available across all modes. Captive portal, Facebook login, that's available across all modes here. So now we'll start talking about some features that are only available in Plus and Pro Pack. Advanced firmware scheduling, the ability to set up different firmware schedules based on device class, to create individual schedules for individual devices. That requires Plus or Pro Pack. Email reporting features, those require Plus or Pro Pack for all of them. I think we just recently added or are about to add some stuff to the free version, but for the whole reporting access, you do need Plus or Pro Pack. An automatic network topology view that requires Plus or Pro Pack, and I'll show you what that looks like here a little bit later. Email alerts and notification when devices go offline, that requires Plus or Pro Pack. And then Wi-Fi vouchers, that requires Plus or Pro Pack. And then some pro-only features here. I won't go over all of them. There's too many here. The ability to do configuration, backups, and restores for your switches. The ability to use templates to make it easier to make configuration changes across multiple customers. Access to our artificial intelligence and machine learning for our wireless access points for troubleshooting issues there, for troubleshooting IPTV issues. Those are pro features. ProPack gives you an audit log that tracks who made the configuration changes over time. So it's another tool to help you with troubleshooting things. And access to collaborative detection and response, where the access points work with the security gateways. That is a ProPack feature. So we'll talk about some of these extra features here. We have the ability to synchronize certain settings between different customers, the ability to create templates, our VPN orchestrator to make it easier to configure site-to-site VPNs, the ability to clone existing sites, to clone existing orgs. So here is our automatic topology view. So with ProPack, we will automatically map out which hardware is plugged into which other hardware, and it is an interactive map. So for instance, you can click on your access point, you can see some basic settings. You can also see which users are currently connected to that access point, etc. So it's a nice handy tool to have when troubleshooting things. ProPack unlocks for you dynamic pre-shared key. So this is an alternative for business use. Instead of using WPA Enterprise, where you use an 802.1x server and each user has their own unique username and password and may or may not need a certificate loaded on each device. What this does is this gives you one SSID for all of your employees. Each user gets their own unique password, and they simply connect and log in just as they would with a typical home network, where you could select the SSID, type in your pre-shared key, and you're done. And then in the back end, what Nebula does is it compares that pre-shared key to your database and can then assign the user to a specific VLAN based on that. So that way, each user has their own unique username, has their own unique password, and they're automatically put on whichever VLANs they need access to do their job. As mentioned earlier, we do have artificial intelligence and machine learning as part of our Wi-Fi health and Wi-Fi aid settings. So that provides you a nice tool to help troubleshoot wireless connectivity issues with Wi-Fi health, and then Wi-Fi aid can make some automatic changes to your Wi-Fi network based on what it's seen with connected client devices for you. One of the cool features we have here on our switches, if you're using our 1350 series of switches, the Pro Pack unlocks some cool features, such as the ability for the switch to monitor connected devices, and if they become non-responsive, automatically power cycle those devices. It also has the ability to provide data and PoE connectivity beyond the standard 100-meter rule, um, without requiring anything special on the client device side of things. We also have the ability to automatically put devices on specific VLANs based on the first 6 digits of the MAC address. So if you're using a certain brand of IP phone, you can put in those first six MAC address digits that are used by all of those phones, and it will automatically, when that device is plugged into any Ethernet port, automatically put it on your voice VLAN, for instance. This talking here, the ability to clone switch settings, the ability when you move a switch from one network to another to automatically carry over those settings to the new customer, ability to set up templates, etc. Sorry, I'm getting a little repetitive, so I'm skipping past some of the stuff. We'll talk a little bit now about security real quick. So on the access point side of things, we have a license called Connect and Protect. And that allows your access points on a per access point basis to provide UTM light features at the access point level. So if you've got a customer's network, you don't control their gateway, it was provided by their ISP, you can still provide additional protection to those wireless users. Something a lot of people that are deploying hotspot networks like to use, just to make sure their guest users aren't experiencing any issues. And then also we have our collaborative detection and response, which allows our security gateways to work in coordination with the access points for some additional security features there. Nebula automatically integrates with our Secu Reporter tool to make it easy for you to get very detailed visual reporting on what's going on with our security routers. And we make it really easy to create site-to-site VPN networks, as well as automate setting up some remote users by automatically being able to configure iOS, Mac OS, and Windows devices to connect back to the VPN. We also have a cool feature called Secure Wi-Fi. It allows you to essentially convert a wireless access point into a VPN appliance that is cloud managed. So basically, you give your remote users an access point, plug it into their existing home router. And because it's an access point, not a VPN router, you don't have to worry about double natting and opening up ports and things like that. You simply plug that access point in at the user's home. It will reach out to the cloud, automatically allowing you to remotely manage it, and it will create a special SSID that the remote user can connect to that basically acts as a VPN tunnel back to the main office through the main firewall gateway. That SSID requires two-factor, or can be set up to require two-factor authentication, as well as 802.1x to make sure only authorized users can access it. So lastly here, I just want to talk a little bit about Nebula architecture, because this is an area where we get some questions. You absolutely can use Nebula hardware with PCI compliant networks and HIPAA compatible networks. And the way it basically works is the only thing that's going to our cloud is configuration information, us pushing configuration or firmware updates to the devices itself, and log information on configurations and changes that have been made, general traffic information, things like that. None of your customers' traffic touches our cloud. So traffic that's supposed to stay on the wireless network stays on the wireless network. Traffic that's supposed to stay on the local network stays on the local network. And traffic that needs to go out to the internet goes directly out to the internet. It is not routed through our servers in any way. So our servers themselves, they are hosted with Amazon AWS, probably the most reliable and most dependable cloud hosting platform out there. So because of that, we give you a 4 nines uptime SLA. Because it's hosted in Amazon Cloud, it's infinitely scalable. So you can add as many devices, users, and just keep growing and growing. And it's not going to cause any issues. There's no additional licenses or upgrades you need to worry about. When it comes to the configuration management traffic itself, we did not create our own in-house platform or technology to do that. Instead, we're using industry standard netconf protocol, something that's open sourced industry standard, so you know it's reliable, safe, and isn't harboring any sort of secret flaws that somebody can take advantage of. So just to sort of summarize here, Nebula is easy to set up. It's unlimited. It's got unlimited scalability. It simplifies configuration. It simplifies setup. It simplifies your installations at your customer's deployment. Um, Makes things easier for you and gives you better access to your customer's network, including proactive tools to alert you of issues that may be happening before your customer is even aware. So Nebula itself, we've got a free demo for you. So at any point, you can just go to nebula.zyxel.com. On the login page, there is a button towards the bottom, which will take you over to a free live demo site that you can experience yourself and poke around in. And if you are one of our authorized partners, you can reach out to your salesperson and we can hook you up with a 60-day demo kit that you can test out in your lab. So again, just to highlight here for you guys, we are doing a more tips and tricks or best practices webinar next week, where we'll go through some of the features. We'll tell you how you should be setting things up, which features you should be enabling, giving you some ideas of how to configure different things. So again, that's next Thursday. I hope I see you there. I don't have any questions that have come in. I'll stick around for just a minute here in case there are any, but thank you for turning up. I appreciate you coming out today and I hope you learned something. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and end the webinar since I haven't seen any questions come in. If you do have some questions, my email is up there on the screen, seanr@zyxel.com, or you can always reach out to your salesperson, Andy, Jacob, or David, and they can either answer the question themselves or they can pass it on to me if they don't know that answer. Thank you for joining us, and I hope I see you next week.